Alright, welcome back everybody. Anybody that's new here, thanks for joining me today. Today on DWS Outdoors, we're gonna go bass fishing. I'm kind of curious, comment below, how many of you people that are subscribed and or are seeing this for the first time enjoy just catching some bass? I have a thing, it's stuck in my head because I bass fished for so long when I was younger. I have to do it every once in a while. The downside is today, hopefully it's not too windy for you guys, you can hear me well. The wind picked up way earlier and I'm a little bit late to the punch. The sun is already up over the horizon, and normally I like to start my stuff right at sunrise. Comment below how many of you guys have been struggling this year to get out early enough, and if you're not struggling to get out early enough, how many of you had a good season so far? It's gonna get really hot today, and yeah, I probably only have like 3 hours now, maybe 4, to try to get some fish, so stay tuned. Okay, like I said, I'm a little late to the punch. I was trying to get out early enough to use the frog a little bit this morning and see if I can get something decent on it, but I don't know if I'm here early enough or not. We will throw this around for a tad bit, and then if I gotta change things up, I might have to run to the other side of the lake, because this side of the lake is wind blown like heck right now, and usually that's a good thing, but just depends on how the fish are feeding. Usually I like it a little calmer for the frog early mornings. And I'm just, those of you guys wondering, I'm just kind of power fishing some pockets real quick here and a major weed line. Okay, it might actually be worth it. When it's a little ripply like this, I like to throw the whopper plopper. Something about just having a little ripple on the water in the morning instead of running a frog. And yes, I have a steel leader on here because there's tons of northern pike in this body of water. Okay, got this is the 110 plopper. Not the really big one, but I like the size of this one. It's a really good mid-range, gets just about everything to bite. So hopefully we can still get some top water earlier this morning, and if that doesn't happen, switch it up. I have a new rod and reel to try out, and like 3 other lures, so we will go through them and try and find some fish. Okay, one major flaw with the plopper is whenever you have weeds like that and they start getting hung up on it, it just basically makes it useless. So I'm gonna take this off and throw my big spinner on, because I can run that through weeds. And then yeah, I've been seeing a bunch of fish jumping around and feeding around these, so I'm actually gonna cast some weedless setups. I have a Texas rigged worm, and I have a Texas rigged craw on a jig to toss in and around there, see if I can pull something right out of the weeds. Okay, so I got a new rod and reel setup this year. It's another Apex Elite medium heavy, but this one's a 7.6. So I have the other one with me with the it's got the craw on it right now. That's a 7.2. So that one's been cut down, and then I threw this TWS. This is a Tatula CT. This is their, I forgot, it's like a 100 or something. I can't remember what the actual number is on it. I'll link it below, but yeah, I'm just trying this out. Those of you guys know I don't work with any reel company, so it's just a matter of, I like my other Daiwa, and I wanted to try another one to put on this rod, so figured I'd try the cheap one, see how this TWS thing works. So that little thing drops away. It's supposed to make it cast better and all that stuff. We will see. I just liked it because it also had like 22 pounds of drag force, so I figured I'd put it on a rod that I like tossing stuff into weeds with, and we will see what I can do with it. So I will be getting used to this rod this morning. Landed on one. Hey, first fish on the new reel. Not a bad little setup, huh? He's not very big, but I'll take it considering first day out with this guy. It's a cool little consolation prize. So I know it can catch little 1 pound bass. We'll see if it can catch and handle those giants. But I was right. They are deep in these weeds, so I might have to go poking around, and I'm not really punching per se because this is a weightless Texas rig. But a lot of these fish get heavily pressured, so you have to fish a really light setup in order to get them to bite. So let's poke around for a little bit here, and then hopefully the wind doesn't pick up too much and blow me off. That guy was sitting right on the weed line there. Spunky little guys this morning. Nothing gigantic, but still fish. I thought I got up too late, but so far the Texas rigged worm is doing what I needed to do. Let's see if anything else is in that area. This isn't necessarily the best technique to get like giants. I mean, you will get them, but this is kind of just move fish mainly, and fighting the wind. I gotta move fish kind of fast, otherwise I'm gonna get blown off of spots. Hopefully that wind isn't bugging you guys too much. For those of you wondering how I'm like paying attention to bites and stuff like that, so I'm letting this thing drop, and I keep a bow in my line here, and when I see it hit bottom, so like I can tell because it's pulling on it, and as long as I can keep myself in place with the trolling motor, once the bow stops pulling forward, I know it's hit bottom. And it's just like I'm fishing it like anybody would fish a craw or anything else creature bait wise, just hopping it up off the bottom, and I'm trying to watch my line jump. That's how I got that last fish, because you kind of got to get on them before they swim back into the weeds or they drop it. But yeah, it's just a line thing. That's why I run this high-vis line. You don't have to run this line per se, but if you wanted to build this whole setup, I'll have everything linked that I used today down in the description below. It's just one of those things. I like the way this setup is. I have a 10 or 12 foot fluorocarbon leader, well, fluoro clear leader, and it's just tied with a line-to-line knot. Some people don't like those, but I haven't had any problems with it. And yeah, it's a pretty simple setup. It's just a lot of people overthink this stuff. Try not to overthink it and just keep it simple, know what works, catch fish. Okay, so I ran to the other side of the lake because I was getting pounded by wind. I'm gonna see if there's anything up in these lily pads here. I'm gonna work down the shoreline before I gotta go. It's already getting stupid hot out even with the wind. See if there's any big ones hanging out in this little area up here. Every once in a while I get lucky and there'll be like an 18 to 20 incher hanging around in here. In the springtime there'll be 4 or 5 pounders, but middle of summer, not so much. There's one. Just had to slow it down a little bit. Probably like a 2, maybe 3. I'll take that. He's straight back in those little weeds over there. Spunky. So I'm just gonna pick apart some of these pockets and see how many are up in here. That's a good sign though. That was not a bass. Is that another one? Yep. Northern pike turned it into a wacky worm. For those wondering, I'm using the green pumpkin watermelon, and that's the 5-inch Nico fat from Daiwa. It's Gary Yamamoto's worm, and it's, of course, if it's his worm, it just works. So. There's one. I just missed one over there. Oh, that's a bigger one. It's a healthy one. Not quite as big as the last one, but it's more spunky. Oh. That is why you check your knots. Man, that broke right on the knot. That was a big fish. So yeah, I probably should have retied after like the first 4 or 5 fish there. I know a lot of people will say you shouldn't have to, but it's one of those things. It's kind of a good habit to get into when you're pounding on fish in weeds and whatnot, just because a lot of times you don't realize how much wear and tear your line's taking. Because every time you set the hook on here, there's a shock in your line, and yeah, that shock just it just broke me off pretty good. Doesn't help that I caught a couple northern pike either, so it could have been nicked right on there. There's something big. What are you? Yep. Oh, what did I know? It's the third one today. Can't go fishing for bass in Wisconsin without catching northern pike. And he got my worm. Okay. Apparently it's easier to catch fish out than I'm making it out to be, because I was just putting sunblock on. And yeah, this guy almost pulled my pole over the side of the boat. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this in the boat this time. Literally, I was literally putting sunblock on. So does it still count if they just? So I had it like that. Does it still count if I'm just drifting and they hammer it? Does it still count as me catching one? Comment below. Would you take that as a catch? I mean, I got him in the boat. Another one. Okay, that's enough of these northern pike. Give me my bait back. That's a pretty big one, actually. Big head, little body. Apparently, if I want to catch northern pike out here, all I got to do is throw bass gear. Okay, had to give up going down the shoreline because the wind is pounding it to death. Hopefully you guys can still hear. Only going to be able to fish for a little bit longer with how bad it's supposed to get. I think we're supposed to get some storms tomorrow, so this is going to be a crazy windy day. It's kind of how I like to fish, though. I like to get out, fish. Pre-frontal conditions are some of my favorite times to get out. Usually the fish are snapping pretty good. I mean, obviously you guys seen northern pike and bass are both going off right now. So if you ever get a chance to fish a prefrontal condition on purpose, I highly suggest doing it, but pay attention to the weather, because if it changes on you and you end up in the storm and it's really strong, it might not be worth it. So keep that in mind. Just made a turn and noticed a pile of weeds out here. I just sat down on my chair for a second because I was getting a little sore. But that little weed pile, I was like, I wonder if anything's sitting by that. And there was. So there's a little tip for you. You see something sticking out of the water, cast at it. I was literally, there's a weed mat over here. I was literally just coming down to fish the front of it here. Okay, so far so good. I mean, I got like 5 or 6 bass right now, and like 3 or 4 northern pike. I mean, they're fun, but I don't like setting the hook into the fish because constantly I have to worry about checking my line. If I'm targeting them, it's fine, but I digress. I'm going to do one more thing that I've been wanting to do for a little while, and there is a shoreline, which this wind happens to be blowing right along right now, that has rocks all the way out like 20-30 feet from it. It's not very deep, so a lot of times the fish are only there in the springtime, so we will see if they are around. But I have my crankbait tied on, and I also have a jig and a what do you call that? I think that was a rage craw. I'll have to check, but I'll list everything I use today that I catch fish on it down below. And then, yeah, that new rod is it's doing pretty good. I like the way it's set up. It's got a good whip to it, so like when I'm throwing light line or light setups like that, it's working okay. And then that new reel is doing okay too. So I'll do a review on the reel after I've used it for the season. And then yeah, that rod is it's just like my other Tuned Up Customs Apex Elite, but it's what is that, a 7.6 versus a 7.2. 7.2 is a little bit more stout, and I'm going to use that for jigs. I really like how it feels for staying in contact with the bottom. The other one, I wanted that little bit of extra length for a little bit of a flick while still running a medium heavy rod, so that I can really get fish out of the heavy stuff. And it's working pretty good, so I'm happy with what I got right now. I got a decent arsenal for bass fishing right now, so wish me luck. I'm gonna go throw that craw around and hopefully I stick some big fish. Okay, with it being stupid shallow, I think the water's down like 2 feet. There's usually a break line out here, so that's like 6 inches of water up there now. And I'm seeing bass bust on bait off this break line. So I'm gonna throw this spinner. Just understand, I'm never married to one idea of fishing, and that you shouldn't be either. There's a reason I have 4 rods set up 4 different ways, and I have 10 different versions to fish this lake any way I need to. I always do that whenever I'm getting ready to go to a body of water. I try to give myself at least 4 different options. This is like big, loud, obnoxious. And then you guys seen me catching the fish on that Nico worm, which is just a weightless worm. Oh, I just missed a big hit. Oh, that was good. I missed it. Let's see if I can get him to come back. Oh. Okay, that's a northern pike. Let's leave that guy alone. That was a big pike is what that was. He came back. Man, he bent this spinner to death. Jeez. There was a fish down there. This dude's definitely been caught before. Never learned his lesson. Okay guys, back in my truck here. Freaking hurricane popped up, like I said. Probably like 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. I tried fishing. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see or hear that last one. I got a little buck bass off the last pier in the line. That was kind of cool. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this little quick one today. I just wanted to beat in the new rod and see how that performed as far as like catching decent fish. This lake is generally a decent one for just like getting some numbers. I got a couple decent ones, and I got 2, 3. I forgot how many, but I got a bunch of big northern pike, and that reel just, I handle them just fine. The drag is really, really tough, so you got to play with it a little bit to make sure that you don't break your line. But other than that, I mean, I think I got like 6 or 7 bass, so not bad for, what time is it? It's like 9. So not bad for about 3-4 hours on the water. So hopefully you guys, like I said, enjoyed this one. If you like bass fishing, comment below. I do fish for everything that swims. This is just one of my favorite things to do because I have all the gear for it, and I've done it for a long time. So it's just catching fish, man. This is just fun. And yeah, some of those bites today were interesting. So see you guys next time.